So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And the justice system doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody at all, as far as I can see. And let's go through all those people. As usual, I'm Earthling yada yada yada. I've done software programming for the banking industry. I've been to Seoul, South Korea, Tokyo, Japan, Caracas, Venezuela. I have gained and subsequently lost more than half my body weight. I quit smoking, and that's it for me. So, the justice system. Let's see who's involved and who's it supposed to help. So, primary people that justice system is supposed to help is victims, right? It's supposed to, well, it can't protect victims because you can't have a cop assigned to each victim to, of course, you can't stop anything bad from happening to anybody because we can't assign a cop to every single person in the world. That's not possible. So you can't prevent anything from happening. If something does happen to you, can you stop it from happening again? No, because you can't assign a cop to every victim. And of course, you need to find out if something has even happened to begin with. You have to sit down and talk to the person and assess whether there really was an actual crime. That takes time. And after you've done your assessment, you still can't protect them by assigning somebody to them. And let's say you want to, prosecute the criminal and put that person in jail for stealing something, for assaulting somebody, or whatever the case is. You can't right away. You're probably going to have to wait quite a while because most people don't just confess and say, yeah, I did it, I'm sorry. And even if you do confess, it's going to take a while for that whole plea bargaining process, if there is such a thing, wherever you live. And of course, you can be out on bail, like as soon as you can get bail, which is often for most people, except for, the really poor people. You have to stay in jail anyway. But for most people can get out on bail. So you can tell the person, hey, don't have anything to do with this other person that's a victim, the alleged victim. But you can't really stop anything. If it happens again, you can arrest the person, charge them with a new crime, see if they can get on bail again because they haven't actually been convicted of anything. So you're supposed to usually give people bail and they can be out on bail again and again and again and again and again and again. Now, let's say the person admits to it. Well, let's say they go to a trial and they're actually convicted. Well, if they are actually convicted, which can take years, or if they actually plead guilty, which can still take a long time anyway, now they're going to go to prison where they're going to encounter worse conditions than if they were outside. So now they can learn to be a worse person. They can learn new tricks about how to commit new crimes. They can lose their sense of individualism. They can join a gang. They can just see more horrible stuff that gives them, let's be honest, nobody talks about the PTSD that criminals can pick up in prison. But certainly, if PTSD is created by a horrible environment, then you're probably giving prisoners PTSD. And maybe some people might not care, but that doesn't really make people better when they come out of prison. So, I don't know. Now, of course, that's if the person admits to the crime and, of course, that they are actually guilty. of the crime. Um, just because somebody gets convicted, though, doesn't mean that they're actually guilty of that specific crime. That can happen. It happens. We can see that, when people get off because of the Innocence Project, that you can be on death row for something that you did not do. So you certainly can be on just death row for, rape that you didn't do. We've seen that. You can be there for anything. So that's not helping anybody to have people in prison for the wrong thing. And it doesn't help them in prison to become worse. And of course, they could have been out on bail anyway. So let's look at the victim. Does any of this help them to move on with their life and prevent stuff like this happening to them again? No. Because the same way that jail doesn't fix criminals, the whole trial process doesn't help the victim. It doesn't make anything better for them. Some of them might say, yes, I feel a sense of satisfaction, da blah blah, da da da. Okay, that's what you say in front of everybody, but when you are home alone, or you've left your apartment again and you're constantly afraid that you're going to be robbed, even though you buy 10 or 20 locks and cameras and whatever around your house, regardless, you know that the cameras are to film the people who come. The cameras are not going to stop them. The locks are not necessarily going to stop them. The gun that you got to protect yourself, it can easily be used against you. Your child or your minors around can be injured by the gun if it's not secured. And if it is secured, then how are you going to get to it in time when you really need it? Well, now I'm talking about guns when I'm supposed to be talking about the justice system. But there is nothing in the justice system that is going to help victims. I would say that it is justice theater. In the same way as there is security theater, all of this, scanners and stuff to make you feel that you are protected when you go on a plane, or to make terrorists feel that someone will actually stop them if they try to board the plane with a bomb. It is justice system theater at the end of the day, because there's nothing to help the victims. There's nothing to help the criminals if they are criminals. If they aren't criminals, they might still get in the system. Lawyers, the lawyers make a lot of money. They make a lot of money from the system, and they work really, really hard. And I don't know that helps anybody for them to work really, really hard. Of course, everybody in that whole system now is going to be charged these exorbitant fees that, people talk about the free market. Well, it doesn't come into play when you're talking about the law on lawyers, right? Because you can actually artificially suppress the number of lawyers that are available. And as a result, the amount that each one of them has to work and the amount of money that they get. So you can go and be a lawyer. You can devote substantial amount of your life to being educated about the law. Then you can devote a substantial amount of your life with respect to cases that you have to take up. And you can devote a substantial amount of the time that you have in your life just to work. That's just how the system is. And of course, sometimes when you know that your client is guilty, you still represent them anyway. And you can pretty much compromise your moral, your mental concept of morality, which of course is not going to help you in your day-to-day relationships with other people. I don't see how that helps you when you are free and loose with your morals, and from that respect. So does it help cops? Well, I don't see how, because cops end up working a lot, as far as I know. They see a lot of horrible stuff. Not that they fix any of it, but they see a lot of horrible stuff, which, of course, doesn't help them in their relationships. I wonder, that's something I should look up, what the divorce rate for cops is. And of course, they're always scared. They're always scared that somebody's trying to kill them, even though the likelihood of a cop being killed on the job is lower than that of a garbage person. It's lower than that of many other people. But they have this consistent fear that somebody's out to get them when they're not. So, yeah, or at least should garbage men be afraid? Should all of the other people who have more dangerous jobs, like loggers, should they be afraid? Because as far as I know, that's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. And so it doesn't help them. Does it help judges? Well, oftentimes to become a judge, you have to go through the system of being a lawyer. And that means you encounter a lot of the things that lawyers have to deal with. And of course, now you're in a position to pass out minimum sentences to people who you might think don't deserve that much time in prison. But because of the mandatory minimums that might be in the US, that might be in the rest of the developed world, there you are, doing stuff that if you really understand what you're doing, you are kind of destroying people, and you are sending out people who you think might actually have committed crime. You're giving them bail because that's what the law says. So you have to do it anyway. So I don't know how that really helps even the judges who have all of this money and maybe prestige and whatever else. And if power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, we can see how Judge Judy acts towards certain people in her court. I don't know that that helps your relationships to have that kind of power in your courtroom. And I don't know how that helps your relationships to have that in your professional life and then go home and try to recreate that in your personal relationships with your spouse, with your kids, with the people that you know. Of course, there are the prosecutors who have to bring these cases to court, and they have to believe that they are right, even in many instances where it might become evident to them that someone that they prosecuted might not have actually done the thing. They have to live with that, right? Or at least they have to lie to themselves. And when you practice lying to yourself about reality, how does that work out? Anyway, of course, again, you're in the criminal justice system, so you have to end up seeing and encountering all of these different things that the cops and everybody else has to see and encounter. You have similar long working hours as compared to regular defense attorneys or just ordinary private attorneys. Doesn't seem like prosecutors really win out as much as people might think that they. I don't think anybody thinks that prosecutors win out, but they don't really seem to win out. So here it is that we have the victims, we have the perpetrators and alleged perpetrators, whether they did it or they didn't. We have the cops, we have the lawyers, the judges, the prosecutors. And for all of these people, there are significant negatives across the board. And they really aren't making the world a better place. Not really. Because most of the crimes are not ever going to reach the point where it's in the criminal system, justice system anyway. The detection rate on most things is minuscule. And even then, you have the plea bargaining system, where most cases end up. You're just people just going to prison. Nobody involved except for the criminals. Nobody involved, or most people don't know what it's like to be in prison. So they don't really care too much about what's going on in there. But even if you take somebody and you put them into prison for life, what does that mean? Does that mean the society is better? Or does that mean that you have someone with nothing to lose who can exert that hatred and that fear and that PTSD on everybody else who comes into the prison? Yeah, we need something else. I don't know what it is, but we need a complete revamp. Anyway, that's it for me. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do all of that fun stuff with the idea that, hey, if this were your piece, what would you like for yourself? Have a good one. Peace.